for another edition of Special Edition inside the Academy Sports and Outdoor Studios here at the Star in Frisco. Bill Jones along with the six-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton and Rick Gosselin as we get you set for the Cowboys and the Eagles. And Nate, this is a big game this week, right?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's a must-win for those Dallas world champion Cowboys. Yes, sir.
A flashback to the world champion Cowboys of the 90s. And we're going to get into this matchup and break down Cowboys versus Eagles. But let's first start off with the news of the week. And the Pro Bowl teams were selected earlier in the week. There are 4 Pro Bowlers for the Cowboys. And you see them right there. You got Zeke Elliott for the 3rd time in his career. Travis Frederick for the 5th time in 7 years, Zach Martin the 6th time, and Tyron Smith, as Martin and Smith are both starters. And it is great to see Travis Frederick making that team after what he went through a year ago. But 4 Pro Bowlers, what do you think, Rick?
I think that's a good number. There are only 5 teams had more Pro Bowlers, and this is a 500 team. You know, I know there are some issues. I think La'el Collins should have been in there, but maybe you take out Frederick or Tyron Smith. But I don't think Dak and Amari have any quibbles. The 3 quarterbacks they chose all had 11-3 records, and quarterbacks get paid to win.
And that's the question we're asking right there. Why weren't Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper on the team? You look at the quarterbacks, and you got Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers on that list. Now, Brees did miss 5 games this year. And then at wide receiver, you've got Julio Jones and Michael Thomas, and then 2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
You can have whoever you want. La'el Collins, just keep playing, man. You'll get your Jets due. Maybe you get in it as an all-pro because you played the best on this team, and you represented it well this year.
And all in told, you had 12 Baltimore Ravens make the team, which is proof. You have a season like the Baltimore Ravens, and you're going to get a dozen Pro Bowlers, right?
The old Cowboy teams in the 90s used to have 10, 11 players.
Guess what? They ain't about the stats. They're about wins. And when people see you more and more on TV, they get to know you personally, and they'll vote for you. Yep. Fans, coaches, players. You beat up the players, get the respect of the coaches, and the fans just fall in line.
Well, no defensive players make the Pro Bowl team. First time since 2014 on that. Cowboys dealing with some injury issues on defense, and some more news from this past week as a former Super Bowl MVP with the Seattle Seahawks is now a Dallas Cowboy. Malcolm Smith is signed this week to try to shore up things as far as the depth at the linebacker position, Rick.
Undersized speed guy, he would have been a great fit in the Jimmy Johnson defense. He was the prototype of what Jimmy wanted in his defense. He'll help in special teams. He'll give us more speed.
And Rashad knows him, so I think the language won't be as difficult to come through. And if they need him in a crunch, he can do it. But it's still Joe Thomas, Justin Marsh-Little as your backup guys.
Yeah, you got Joe Thomas, the knee issue he's dealing with. Luke Gifford fractured an arm last week in the game, very early in the game. What a big win it was against the Rams. And how about the way Sean Lee played against the Rams last week, Goose?
That was like the vintage Sean Lee when he was a turnover machine back when his prime, before all the injuries. Before the injuries, he was a Pro Bowl linebacker that didn't really go. That was a Pro Bowl performance last week from Sean Lee. I
agree with him 100%, man. Sean Lee looked right. He kept everybody lined up right. That's what you see about him. When Sean Lee takes over, he lines everybody up. He get it. And our defensive line played well, kept pressure. That made it where these linebackers can have success.
And we'll see how much Malcolm Smith gets an opportunity to play in his first game as a Cowboy against the Eagles. We're just getting started here on Special Edition. When we come back, we talk Cowboys offense and hear from the players in the locker room.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Salvation Army, doing the most good. And by AT&T. This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. The Texas Lottery proudly supports Texas education and veterans. Play the Texas Lottery today.
Starts up front, those guys communicating, coming off the ball, was beautiful. And then you look at the runners, the way they did, broke tackles, made people miss. Both of those guys was so impressive. And then the receivers outside making plays, and even Tavon's numbers called on a round screen, or on a flat sweep or whatever it is. Everybody contributed, whether it was them with the ball in their hands or them doing their job and blocking. Just great complimentary football. I said momentum is a dangerous thing, and it's about getting it on our side. And we've just got to build off tonight. Simple as that. We're still not where we want to be. We haven't necessarily peaked, but we're heading in the right direction, and we've just got to continue to build and get better. We definitely hadn't got down on ourselves. Never have, because we know the team we have, we know the talent we have, we know the men and the character we have on this team. And it was about just going out there and putting a good game together on both sides of the ball and complimenting each other. But yeah, when you have the confidence, or when you have the team that we have and the skill, the confidence, you never have a down day. It's just about learning and moving forward no matter what happens.
Check out these offensive numbers. The last 3 games, which were not good games, and then the Rams game, which was a very good game offensively for this team, scoring 44 points. And Nate Newton, how about 263 yards rushing? Can the Cowboys build off that this week against the Eagles?
They can, because all they've been looking for is balance. This is one of the lowest throwing games for Dak, but it's one of the highest rushing games for Tony Pollard and our great Ezekiel Elliott. I like how they did it. They kept it balanced. Zeke ran and softened them up, and Tony Pollard finished them off.
Yeah, bottom line, this is their identity. When they were winning division titles and winning rushing titles, they ran the ball, they played defense. Now, I think last week they realized this is what we have to get back to. This is the fewest passes Prescott has thrown in a game this season, and it's the best game this team played. They controlled the ball for 36 minutes. That's their game. Keep the other team off the field, other offense off the field. That's why this defense played well. They only played 23 minutes.
But it was 58% on the third downs. They banged it up in there enough to keep it honest. Dak wasn't as sharp, but you didn't need him to be sharp. You needed Zeke to be sharp, the offensive line, the 3 Pro Bowlers we talked about earlier. That's why they're in place. Lyle Collins is playing lights out. Our tight ends are blocking well. This run game can take us where we need to go.
Like those road graders?
Yes. Forever and ever, road graders, man. Big D10s, as they call them.
And then, Goose, you look at Dak Prescott, the shoulder injury that was revealed earlier in the week, missed practice early in the week, and you would think that means run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
Yeah, I think whether he's healthy or not, we saw last week when Zeke Elliott runs the ball, good things happen. When he rushes for 100 yards in the game, this team is 21-5. If you feed Zeke, you're going to benefit from it. And again, with Prescott's shoulder, you want to feed Zeke, and now they're going to have to feed Zeke.
And when you look at Zeke Elliott, he's played 2 games in his career at Philadelphia. He has 2 100-yard rushing games, including 151 yards last year in an all-important game in Philadelphia. When we come back here on Special Edition, more from the locker room, and we turn our attention to this Dallas defense.
This segment was brought to you by the Texas Lottery. The Texas Lottery proudly supports Texas education and veterans. Play the Texas Lottery today. This segment is brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas.
It was a really good game for doing normal, and that's always going to be the focal point. Assignment, keys, alignment, responsibility, and then tackle. Right? It's huge, the lifeblood of our defense. His level of preparation is second to none. At this point in time, a lot of it, especially when you're dealing with a veteran, is mental. He puts the time in. He understands what's going on out there. He understands what's necessary for him to accomplish in order for us to have success. So, a really good game. And obviously, it's what he's capable of doing. He's done it throughout the history of his career. So it's good it happened last week. When you put it on tape, again, you show a man and you address it, then there's only one thing to do, and that's respond. So obviously, again, we had a positive response, but the tale is this week. We got to come back and do normal again. Got to build from there.
Let's take a look at this Dallas defense and what it was able to do last week against those Los Angeles Rams, and what sticks out more than anything, especially when you consider what happened in the divisional playoff loss in L.A. in January. A season-low 22 rushing yards. Todd Gurley held to just 20 yards rushing, some of that, including a late touchdown game very late in the game. How about that run defense? What a turnaround.
It was great. It was great to see them guys go out and play, man. Everybody playing in their gaps. Everybody did what it's supposed to do. The week before, 19 missed tackles. This past week, only 2. only 2 missed tackles. They say 1, but I counted 2 missed tackles. Sean Lee was outstanding, man. He came to play. He found that fountain of youth, had a great game.
It still goes back to the running game and offense. When you're running the ball, controlling the clock, your defense is playing less. The less your defense plays, the fresher the legs. This defense played 23 minutes against the Rams. You know, they're always fresh. And I think you saw the best of the Steelers because they were rested and ready to go.
Antoine Woods coming off an injury, did what he had to do. He stopped the first play there for a loss, and I think that detoured the coach of the Rams. All of a sudden, he wanted to give it to his quarterback, but when they tried to run the ball, they were very, very stiff.
Yep, Antoine Woods missed the previous couple of games, and he made an impact right off the bat. And now against a Philadelphia Eagles team that is really hurting at the wide receiver position. In fact, we'll get more into them coming up here in just a moment here on Special Edition. What does this Dallas defense, and how about the Cowboys offense against the Eagles? How do they match up when Special Edition continues here in just a moment?
This segment was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. This segment is brought to you by AT&T.
Deep middle width, lost his helmet, keeps running without a hat. Owens, touchdown. Oh, he flaps his wings like a big eagle bird in the end zone. McNabb shows play action and goes deep over the middle. It's intercepted at the 45-yard line of Dallas by Jenkins. Deep fade Austin, all alone, miles and miles and miles to go. Austin, touchdown.
Romo going deep for Bryant, touchdown. 3 touchdown catches tonight for Des Bryant. Big hole, hurdle, inside the 20, loses his balance, but he gets inside the 10 for a first and goal.
Ah, the memories, and despite both sitting at 7-7, Sunday's contest between the Cowboys and Eagles will add to the entertaining divisional rivalry. Let's take a closer look at this all-important matchup. Week 7, Cowboys flew past the Eagles 37-10. Ezekiel Elliott rushed for 121 yards, 1 touchdown. Defense came away with a season-high 4 takeaways in that game. After its bye week in Week 10, Philly dropped 3 in a row, including a 37-31 loss at Miami, of all places. However, the Eagles battled back to defeat the Redskins and the Giants the last couple of weeks. Sunday's matchup won't be the first time these teams have met with a playoff berth on the line. In 2013, Philly clinched the NFC East with a 24-22 win at Dallas. In 2009, Dallas came away with a 24-0 home win to win the division, whereas in 2008, the Eagles clinched a wild card spot with an easy 44-6 home win. A look at the NFC playoff picture. Well, as Dak Prescott said a week ago after the win over the Rams, it's the playoffs right now. The Cowboys have already made the playoffs, according to Dak. But truthfully, if they win this one, they win the NFC East, and they are playoff bound. So how in the world do the Cowboys go to Philadelphia and win? On paper, it looks pretty good for the Cowboys. But let's start on offense. What do they need to do against the Eagles' defense to win this game?
They got to run the ball effectively. They got to play smart. They got to stay ahead of the chains. They have to have a clean game, no penalties. Go up there, play a clean game, run the ball. Dak throw this thing when he needs to, move around, extend plays when he have to, and I think they'll be all right.
And let me turn it around to you, Rick, because Zach Ertz has been their leading target on offense. And we look at the Dallas defense here, and with what is happening at the wide receiver position for the Eagles, those tight ends are such a huge factor.
Yeah, there's no one left. I mean, they opened the season with Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar, and all 3 of them probably won't play this game. Ertz is your one weapon. You want to load up, I'd probably move Byron Jones in, let your big physical corner take on the tight end, but be careful. Miles Sanders is the X factor. I mean, I think they know they got to run the ball to keep the Cowboys off the field, and I think it'll come down to Miles Sanders or Ezekiel Elliott, whichever one has a better game wins this game.
Should Zach Ertz be the main target for the Cowboys defense?
No, I wouldn't. What I would do is basically they got to turn into the Cowboys, and try to run the ball and control it and keep our offense off the field. Because if we jump up on them, that puts them in a bad situation. That turns loose our pass rush on them.
And flip it around to that Philly defense. And, of course, the Cowboys coming off the big rushing game against the Rams last week. And the Philly defense led by Fletcher Cox up front. They got Malcolm Jenkins on the back end, and they've had a lot of low-scoring games this year. The Philly has.
They have, especially the last half of the season. And I think Goose was telling me that they're giving up average of 17, but I think they're a little bit overrated. And Zeke has always had success against these people. They cannot match up with our wide receivers outside. We can hurt them deep, we can hurt them in the mid-range, and we can also run because I think they're a little bit overrated.
Yeah, I don't think Fletcher Cox had a Pro Bowl year, although he's going to the Pro Bowl. Timmy Jernigan is back. That'll help. This is a third-ranked run defense in the NFL, but for whatever reasons, Zeke has their number. And I think you attack them, run the ball, and get the crowd out of it. I think if you have a fast start, get an early lead, the crowd could turn vicious. And if you're Santa Claus, you don't want to show up at the stadium at halftime.
They boo everybody, including Santa Claus in Philly. How big is home field advantage for the Eagles?
Well, it's everything. I mean, their coach has done a massive job these last two games of getting them to play hard and play through adversity. But I think we have too many skill position players on offense. And if Kellen Moore can keep that balance, whether it's a lot of pass or a lot of run, but he mix in the other opposite that to keep this game balanced, we can take them.
All right, we're moving into 4-down territory here on Special Edition when we come back in just a moment.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T. Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by Ford. Visit your local Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' films and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass.
Congratulations to 5-time Pro Bowl center Travis Frederick for being selected as the 2019 Dallas Cowboys nominee for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide. As a part of this honor, Nationwide and the NFL Foundation have provided funds that will support the efforts of Frederick's Blocking Out Hunger Foundation. Congratulate Travis and join the Nationwide Charity Challenge by tweeting using the hashtag WPMOY Challenge and tagging Travis to help him win $25,000 in grants for his foundation today. The Nationwide Charity Challenge goes through January 12th. We're proud to call Travis our 2019 Man of the Year. 4-down territory here. Let's start with Nate Newton about Travis Frederick. What kind of season has Travis had after coming back from Guillain-Barré syndrome a year ago?
You know, Travis started out, we knew that he could line up the defense, line up our offense. You know, he took a big burden off of that because he goes up to the line and he calls the situation over, under, and who's the protection going to be based off of the mic to the wheel. But more importantly, he started out slow. He would get drove back a little bit as a center. But as the season got on, he got stiffer and stiffer. And now you see the middle of our pocket is clean because he keeps everything up front. And his run back blocking is improved by 100%.
Yeah, and what a great story that is, his comeback from Guillain-Barré syndrome. All right, 2nd down. More pressure to win on Sunday. Dak or Carson Wentz? Nate, what do you think?
I'm thinking, hey, it's Dak. You got to win, my man. You got to make it happen because you'll win the NFC East this week. To me, the pressure's on you. You're going on the road, do what it takes.
I think the pressure's on Wentz. These two teams have had tumultuous seasons, and I think in a must-win game, the pressure's always going to be on the home team quarterback. If Wentz struggles and the crowd starts booing, it could get ugly for Wentz and the Eagles.
It will get ugly in Philadelphia. It always gets ugly in Philadelphia. All right, 3rd down. Can Robert Quinn get back on track against the Eagles?
When he played the Eagles the first time, he was playing against Lane Johnson, a Pro Bowl player. He had a sack. Now, Johnson should be back this week. I think this is a guy that can rise to the moment. I mean, this is an elite player. I think he does rise to the moment.
He's been in big games before. He knows what it takes. He knows that the Cowboys need him. He'll make something happen this week.
And our final 30 seconds, a score prediction. 4th down. Nate,
one
about
point
1
is
point.
all I need.
Cowboys have the better team, the healthier team. I say they win close game 2017.
So it will be a Merry Christmas for the Cowboys in Philadelphia. It may not be a Merry Christmas for Santa Claus in Philadelphia, but it will be for the Cowboys. For Rick Gosselin and Nate Newton, I'm Bill Jones. We appreciate you joining us here for Special Edition. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you again next week.
Merry Christmas.